Good morning. Hope you're not getting sick of all this by now, surely. Right, my kids, that's where I got to, and I was proud of them. Still am. My kids are doing well. Um, Come to another part of my life after finishing with my ex wife, which was 1993-94. Got divorced in 1999. Then after that, but in between that time, I met someone, didn't get married to them. But I met someone who I thought a lot of, to be honest. But that was another story. Oh God, how did it work out? Look, everything went after getting divorced. Everything went downhill. So for me, anyway. So I had a bit of a period in my life where I was just working just to make a bit of a living and chilling out and trying to sort my life out. Then I met someone who I thought the world of her, to be fair. Didn't get married, didn't have any children with her, but I decided to start up a business, and she realised I was making too much money, which is a bit of a story which I'd have to add into that where I went and how I did it and how I made the money. I started a business, I was working like bloody hell, and I was actually from nothing. Um, I was driving a roller up on the old cattle market when it had been demolished. And one of the contract managers came from one of the firms I was working for and said, "Oh, you know all about this block paving, blah, 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 blah." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Right, jump in the car." I said, "Well, I'm working." I said, "The foreman will go mad." He said, "No, he won't. I'll ring him and tell him." He worked for him as well. So he took me to this job in Stoke and he says, "Right, there's a million block pavings here. I want them all lifted and put on a pallet." I said, he said, "Well," I said, "I ain't got the money. I can get the blokes, but I ain't got the money to pay the wage." He said, "Don't worry about the wages." He said, "I'll have the money in your bank by Friday." So I took a leap of faith and I did it and I never looked back. I got from that. So if you take, I was on £10 an hour, and then I went from that to earning, I was turning over £1 million a year. I just was. So anyway, right up until 2012, I was, look, at the end of the day, anybody can say what they want to say, but I was being robbed. All right. So I had a fallout with the person I was going out with for one reason or another. It didn't really matter why it was, whether I was wrong or she was wrong or whoever it was. It didn't really matter. So I'd never done so well, and I will be fair. I was doing brilliantly. So anyway, up until that time, to cut anything out so that I'm not slagging anybody, that's just it. I lost everything. Realised how much money was going out of the company and it wasn't being taken out of the company by myself. I had an accountant look into it, and this accountant said to me, "Do you want to come and have a look at this?" I said, "Yes." Said, "Right, sit down." I said, "Yeah, go on." Said, "You're £97,000 adrift for last year." I said, "Are you joking?" And she said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I don't know. I feel sick." I said, "You know, the worst part about this is if she'd have asked me for it, I'd have just given it her because I had all I wanted. I didn't need nothing." So anyway, it was the end of that. And then she said, "What do you want to do?" So I thought about it and I said, "Right, I'm going to make an offer to buy her out." Because what I did was in 2008, we were talking about death. And she said, "What would I do if you died?" And I said, "Well, you'd be all right." She said, "No, it would go to your kids." And then I thought about that and I said, "Right, well, look, what I'll do is," because I thought the world of her and I did. I loved her to death. I said, "I'll give you 50% of the company so that you're safe." I did. Needless to say, about 2 or 3 years later, my son come to me, he was looking online, said, "Dad, what have you signed over control of the company for to this person?" I said, "I haven't." He said, "Come here." And she'd fraudulently signed over 5% of the company to her. So she owned, I took everything away from me. And it was my company, it was me. And I couldn't even change my own phone. I couldn't do anything, couldn't pay, I couldn't do anything whatsoever. I'd taken everything taken away. So I rang him, "What are you doing? You signed it over to me. You were drunk." I said, "Yeah, bloody right, I would have been." So anyway, I didn't. But listen, needless to say, so I rang her and I said, "I want to make an offer to buy you out." And she said, "You're going to keep me till I'm effing 65. I said, "No, I'm not." I said, "There you go. There's the keys. There's this. There's that. There's everything." It hasn't got to come to this, it's too late. So I left everything. I mean, everything I had. I never even had a credit card, debit card, no money, nothing. I walked away. Um, anyway, that was that. My brothers helped me out after. There's a lot more involved in it, but listen, it happened to me, and like again, one person to blame is my bloody self for it. So I walked away from £1 million a year business, and there's plenty of people that have vouched for me personally as a bank manager. So anyway, I left it at that. I ended up doing nothing. I was working with my brothers. They were all helping me out a little bit here, a little bit there. I ended up renting a place, which I rented off one of the lads that works for me and still works for me today, funnily enough. He brought the house on houses under the hammer. So that was one thing and another. Then where did I go? Right. And then, because I weren't doing anything, someone said to me, why don't you start again? I said, I haven't got the money to start again. It would cost a lot of money. So this person said to me, right, we'll go to the bank, see what they say. I said, they'll just tell me to sod off. I said, I've got no collateral, no nothing whatsoever. And so I went, and the bank manager said, we can't believe all this has happened. I said, why? He said, well, do you know we used to use your company if we were doing a seminar on how to start up and how to run a business. We used your company, not your name, but we used your details, everything, how you run the company and how to run a company so well. So there you go, that was that. So he said to me, what are you going to do? And I explained everything. I'd got nothing, blah, blah, blah. So, well, what would you do if you could? I said, well, I'd need a £20,000 loan to live on for the next 2 years so that I can sort of live and work. And I'd need a £25,000 overdraft. And he said, there you go, it's in your bank. I said, what? No collateral. He said, if I can't trust you, I can't trust no one. So into my bank instantly was £20,000 and a £25,000 overdraft. I didn't use the £25,000 overdraft. That was in 2016. It's 2026 now, and I still have that £25,000 overdraft. It's still in my bank, and I've never used it once because I used the money, the £2,000. I went out and worked, and every time I worked and earned a bit more money, I paid someone else. So just before lockdown, oh yeah, I missed out a piece, didn't I? In 2018, I ended up with an heart attack. I couldn't believe it because relatively I'm fit-ish. And said to the doctors, what's caused this? I said, just the pressure of this big breakup. And he said, no, it's been working out over the last 5 years. Now, there is something in that I would say to you, life is very short. Please do not put off something today that you think you can do tomorrow. Do it, because this person or that person that you should be spending a bit of time with, you might miss and regret that time, okay? I did. My mother passed away in 2012, and that hurt me really, really badly. I mean, I still haven't got over it today, and I haven't. I find it difficult to go up to the cemetery to see it because I still cry today, but there you go. But I speak to her every time I walk through that front door. There's a picture of her and my one brother that I lost recently. And yeah, so anyway, I'll tell you about that one before we go. Sean, who was like my third brother down, passed away 2 years ago. I never realised how short life can be. I never realised how lonely life could be. Now, he passed away and I had to come back home, and I was living here on my own then and still living here on my own now. And I couldn't go to my children or my family because I was so upset. I didn't want them to see me upset and worried about it. So I had to come home, and I sat here and I broke my heart, and I could not believe how lonely it is. There was no one here to put their arms around me and wipe away the tears. But hey, I still miss him. But anyway, never mind. He's it's what it is, isn't it? So anyway, let's get back to buying her out, starting again. Yeah, so just before lockdown, I got back to doing nearly £1 million a year. Unfortunately, with lockdown, the business took a big tumble. I'm still here, still doing it, still building it back up. It's taking time. And obviously, there's various things in life that put things back. But I'm doing all right, you know. And it's steady enough. So remember what I said. Don't put something off tomorrow that you can do today. because that person you might regret. And so if you feel as if somebody needs you or they're not very well, you go and see them. Remember, life is very, very short, and don't live your life full of regrets. That's goodbye for now.